The galactic arena stood silent, a colossal temple where civilizations gathered to prove their dominance. At its heart lay a weapon forged before empires, trapped in crystal light. Alien champions had tried and failed for centuries. Giants, warlords, energy beings, each straining, bleeding, collapsing before the obsidian blade that remained still, humming with disdain. The crowd whispered, "It cannot be lifted." Council speaker announced, "Whoever wields this shall command all." Yet none have succeeded. The arena echoed with gears until a lone human stepped forward. Small, unarmored, ordinary to alien eyes. Laughter roared through the chamber like thunder. "A fragile mammal dares," shouted a crystalline delegate, its voice cutting through the mockery. "Let it try. The spectacle will amuse us." The human ignored them, eyes fixed on the blade, with an intensity that silenced a few of the closer observers. He placed one hand on the hilt. The weapon trembled. Gasps filled the chamber. No alien had made it stir in 3 centuries. With calm breath, he pulled. The weapon rose, as though weightless, its edge shimmering with ancient fire. The silence that followed felt louder than war drums. Alien voices cracked with disbelief, shattering the stunned quiet. "Impossible. A trick. This is forbidden." The human raised the weapon, and its blade caught the light of 1,000 distant stars projected on the arena's ceiling. He whispered, not to them but to himself, words that would echo across galaxies. Still unstoppable. The chamber erupted. Some shrieked in rage, their carefully constructed hierarchies crumbling. Others fell to stunned silence, minds racing to comprehend what their eyes had witnessed. The council demanded answers. How? Why humanity? The weapon pulsed in response, ancient runes glowing in perfect synchronization with its heartbeat, as if recognizing something the assembled civilizations had lost millennia ago. Visions flashed from the blade itself. Wars fought before the stars were born. Titans wielding this same weapon, all falling to corruption, ambition, and the hunger for dominion. Only those who fought not for conquest, but survival, could bear its weight. Only those who understood that true strength meant defending, not dominating. Aliens shouted accusations into the chaos. Humans are reckless. They are chaos given flesh. Yet whispers spread through the more thoughtful observers. Maybe this is destiny. Maybe the weapon itself had been waiting, patient through eons, for a species foolish enough to hope and stubborn enough to endure. A warrior from the tectonic reach, unwilling to accept this reality, lunged at the human with 6 arms, ready to crush him. With one fluid motion, the blade cut through stone skin like air. The crowd recoiled in shock, but the human did not boast. He lowered the weapon carefully. "I don't want your throne. I want the truth of why this was made." The council faltered, their composure cracking. Ancient records spoke of a weapon forged, not to rule, but to defend against something darker. A threat so terrible they had chosen to forget rather than remember. Holograms of ancient wars activated throughout the arena, triggered by the weapon's awakening. The blade projected star maps, showing entire sectors collapsing into black voids, civilizations vanishing without trace. An enemy unseen for millennia, the Devourers, was returning. Suddenly, the blade sang with a piercing note of alarm that cut through every species' auditory range. At the galaxy's edge, sensors confirmed what the weapon already knew. Stars were winking out. The prophecy was awakening, and the galaxy had grown soft in its absence. The council panicked, their unity dissolving into fear and self-preservation. "If the humans alone can wield it, then the galaxy is doomed to their mercy," declared one faction. Others whispered with desperate hope, or saved by their courage. Alien armies prepared to seize the weapon by force, unable to accept what it represented. The arena became a battlefield. In seconds, blades clashed, plasma screamed through the air, and fires scorched ancient stone. Yet the human stood calm at the center of chaos, weapon pulsing brighter with each heartbeat. He fought, not with rage, but precision, honed by countless wars on a death world called Earth. Every strike was a defense, not slaughter. Every movement spoke of restraint, harder won than any victory. Aliens hesitated, confused. This was no tyrant, no conqueror drunk on power. As the dust settled and the dying moaned, allies emerged from unexpected corners. An insectoid scholar, who had long questioned the council's wisdom. A crystalline healer, tired of mending wounds from pointless dominance games. A reptilian warrior, who recognized honor when he saw it. Species mocked by the council for weakness or idealism, now united by human defiance. Together, they fled the arena aboard a stolen vessel, its engines screaming to life as pursuit ships ignited the stars behind them. The blade hummed with something that felt remarkably like approval. In the silence of deep space, with only the hum of engines and labored breathing, visions came again. The weapon revealed the true enemy in horrifying detail. Colossal beings of hunger, vast as moons, moving through dark space toward the light. They consumed not just matter, but hope itself. The human clenched the hilt until his knuckles whitened. Then this isn't about dominance, it's about survival. All of us. His allies questioned him through the ship's comm system. Why you? Why humans? He answered, with a tired smile they couldn't see. Because we don't quit. Even when we should. Especially when we should. Word spread across colonies faster than light itself. A human wields the blade. Some species rallied, finding courage in the impossible. Others plotted in shadow, seeing humanity as both hope and existential threat. Rival factions prepared for war, unable to imagine a galaxy where the meek inherited power. Meanwhile, the Devourers drew closer. Planets near the void vanished without distress calls, without final transmissions. Silence spread like disease through sector after sector. The Council debated genocide in hushed chambers. Better to exterminate Earth now than bow to them later. The human confronted them one final time before the real war began. Blade glowing with restrained power, he stood before the Council dais, a single figure against the assembled might of galactic civilization. You think power is in the weapon. It isn't. It's in the choice of how to use it. Silence followed his words, heavy with the weight of judgment. Some council members began to understand what the weapon had always known. Others sharpened metaphorical knives and planned assassination. Then the first devourer breached normal space, and all debate became meaningless. Massive, shadow-winged, its body blotted out 3 suns simultaneously. Entire fleets opened fire with weapons that could crack planets. Nothing pierced its hide. Missiles vanished into its mass like stones into an ocean. Energy beams bent away as if reality itself rejected their existence. The council cried in despair, prayers to forgotten gods spilling from 100 different mouths. But the human stepped forward, boots ringing on metal deck plating with simple determination. The blade blazed brighter than a star going nova, responding to his will, his hope, his stubborn human refusal to accept the inevitable. He leaped into combat, metaphorically, but literally vaulting from the ship into the vacuum. The weapon creating a sphere of breathable reality around him, through mechanisms even he didn't understand. Strikes tore through the creature's armor, wounds shining like dawn breaking over a dark world. Billions watched across thousands of systems as feeds streamed live across every network. The impossible unfolded in real time. The beast staggered, roared, bled light. Humanity's defiance shone brighter than fear. The allies joined without hesitation, each contributing what their species did best. Crystalline beams healed wounds as fast as the devourer inflicted them. Reptilian fire scorched where the blade had weakened armor. Insectoid intellect analyzed attack patterns, guided strikes to vital systems that shouldn't exist in a creature of living void. Unity turned despair into hope, transformed fear into fury. The devourer roared, a sound felt in bones and souls across light years, then collapsed into fragments of void that dissipated like nightmare at dawn. The galaxy shook with the aftershock, then steadied. Silence followed, profound and fragile. The council, watching from their safe chambers, bowed their heads in shame and recognition. Perhaps we were wrong. Humanity is not weakness, but will. The human lowered the blade slowly, exhaustion crashing over him like a wave. Don't mistake this. We're not saviors. We're survivors. And survival is unstoppable. Whispers spread like wildfire across the stars, through markets and military channels, through scientific conferences and religious gatherings. Still unstoppable. The phrase became legend, etched into history lessons and carved into monuments. Some species trembled in fear of what humanity might become. Others found courage they'd forgotten, inspired by fragile mammals who refused to yield. Unity began to stir where arrogance once reigned, tentative but genuine. The weapon returned to silence, yet remained in human hands, its glow, faint and patient. Not waiting for power, waiting for purpose. Years later, songs were sung in languages humanity couldn't speak of the day. A fragile mammal lifted what none could move, and spoke words that shook empires. Children of dozens of species grew up playing unstoppable, pretending to lift invisible blades, learning without knowing it the lesson the weapon had always taught. The council rewrote its laws, not around dominance and conquest, but cooperation and mutual defense. Humanity sat among them not as rulers, but as equals. Yet shadows lingered at the edge of sensors and consciousness. The Devourers were not gone, merely wounded. The blade's silence was only patience, and its wielder understood what that meant. The human trained successors, teaching them not strength of arm, but strength of heart, the ability to hold power and choose mercy, to stand firm and yet remain gentle. The allies who once fled with him became leaders of a new alliance, bound not by treaties or blood, but by shared survival and the memory of standing together when standing seemed impossible. Stories spread to the edge of the galaxy, whispered in deep space stations, and shouted in victory celebrations. The unstoppable one will rise again, when darkness returns. The blade pulsed faintly in its sheath, as if amused by prophecy. It had chosen once, it would choose again when needed, and the choice might surprise everyone. The human stood on a cliff of alien stone, looking at twin suns rising over a world that had voted to join the alliance. Unstoppable, he whispered, not in pride or boast, but in faith in the galaxy's future, in cooperation over conquest, in the stubborn hope that had defined his species since they first looked at stars and wondered. The stars shimmered with possibility, ancient light carrying new promises. The galaxy was forever changed, because one human dared to lift the impossible, not for glory or dominion, but because someone had to, and he happened to be there. In the end, that was the most human thing of all.